Hey there guys, MillardtheMK from WorldofTanksTutor.com, right here to give you the skinny on light tank module kitting. There's a lot of confusion that goes around as to what you should run on what lights, and I'm just going to give a general overview. I'm of course unable to address every single light in the game, so instead I'm going to give a general perspective on each tier of light tank and what modules should be being run on those tiers. So here we go. Starting with tier 4 lights, basically in that bracket you're running the T50, you're running the M5, and some of these sort of what are generally considered bad tanks, especially the hated PZ38NA. The question becomes, what do you run on a tank that has less view range than the guys it's facing and no gun to speak of, probably not great speed either? Well, the solution tends to be optics, binocs, and camo net. That's going to allow you to do a ridiculous amount of passive spotting, something that oftentimes is lower tier tanks, that's the only area they excel in, and it also gives you the edge, just very slightly, with on the move spotting. A tank like a T50 is going to be much better active than the 38NA or the M5 Stuart, but overall in the tiers I'm recommending optics, binocs, camo. Tier 5 lights are a little bit different because they still have no good guns, but they're a bit faster. So the gist of it becomes is we're running optics, binocs, and camo, but you're gonna need to be willing to active more. You now have the speed to perhaps get in and out of tighter situations, whereas with most of the tier 4 lights they don't turn, they don't have any top speed, etc., and they have so few HP. The Chaffee as a tier 5 light is the only exception to this binos, camo, optics rule, and on the Chaffee I would tend to run, and this is a bit personality specific, rammer, camo net, and optics. The reason being is the Chaffee has a beautiful 400 view range and great camo value. It also is the highest EXP per game contest winner. Basically, the gist of that being is if you run a rammer on a Chaffee and aren't afraid to sling some gold, you can put out 15, 2K, 2400 damage, and as you do this in up tiers, you're going to get an insane amount of EXP. So it's more fun. If you're not one of those guys who wants to combat scout, then run the same lineup on the Chaffee, optics, binos, camo net. Okay, tier 6 lights. Once again, we're getting a little bit faster, a little better view range, and almost a viable gun. Depending on your tank, like the T21 is actually pretty viable. So for tier 6 lights as a rule, we run optics, camo, and then the last slot is you dependent. You can either run rammer or binos. Tier 7 lights, here we go. By now you've got a pretty good gun. If it's the Wheezy 131, you've got an awesome gun. 1375 is okay. T71, very good gun. So overall, tier 7 lights can start to hurt things, can start to maybe take out tier 8 heavies or get some nice flanking damage on tier 9s. What that means for our loadout is we start running rammer, optics, and a vert stab if you can. If not a vert stab, a GLD. That's going to allow you to optimize your firing potential while still maintaining good spotting range, which is of course very key for you as a light tank. Other interesting thing with tier 7 is your view range takes a nice hop and goes up a notch, becoming much more on par with your peers. Okay, tier 8 lights and tier lights. What do we run? Well, much the same as tier 7, except it becomes a for sure rammer and maybe vert GLD. The frustration here is that some of the tanks can run a little different modules. Take this 1390 for instance. It has no vert stab option. You can't run it. But what you do want to be running, also can't run a rammer, is either GLD or rammer and vert stab optics. There's absolutely no reason not to be running a vert at this point. Basically all the tier 8 lights get it. No 1390 unfortunately. Okay, there we go. Those are the modules you want to be running on your lights per tier. We're going to run through them real fast here again. Tier 4 lights are optics, binos, camo. Tier 5 lights are optics, binos, camo, with the exception of potentially a rammer on the Chaffee. Tier 6 lights, optics, camo, and then perhaps running a rammer in there in the mix if you really want to passive, go binos. Tier 7 lights, rammer, optics, vert stab, or GLD. If your aim time is beneath 2.7, I recommend vert if you can carry it. Again, I've got a video about that on my YouTube channel, so check that out. And for tier 8 lights, it's for sure rammer if you can carry it. If not, GLD, vert, and optics, keeping our spotting range nice and high. I hope it was helpful, and happy light tanking. Ciao.